Hey everyone, hope you're having a fantastic start to your day. Wanted to hop on and talk to you guys out of a pretty famous passage. A lot of you guys will know about this story out of the book of John and out of the book of Matthew. This is talking about the time when Jesus basically flipped all the tables over in the temple, and he got really mad at these money changers that had set up camp. Now, a lot of people know this story, but not a lot of people know the historical context and background behind this story, which is a little bit of what I wanted to do, just a quick video and kind of fill you guys in on today. So first, I wanted to read you the two passages of scripture. I want to start in the book of Matthew and then flip over to the book of John so that you can see the two different times when this is mentioned in the scriptures, okay? So the first one is going to come from Matthew chapter 21, starting in verse 12. It says, "And Jesus entered the temple grounds and drove out with force all who were buying and selling birds and animals for sacrifice in the temple area, and he turned over the tables of the money changers." Remember that word, that's going to be important, okay? "Who made a profit exchanging foreign money for temple coinage, and the chairs of those who were selling doves for sacrifice. Jesus said to them, 'It is written in scripture, my house shall be called a house of prayer, but you are making it a robber's den.'" Okay, that's important. Now let's hop over to the other time it's mentioned, which is in the book of John. And I want to start reading to you guys in John chapter 2, starting in verse, it looks like 14 here. It says, "And in the temple enclosure, he found the people who were selling oxen and sheep and doves with the money changers," there's that word again, "sitting at their tables. He made a whip of cords and drove them all out of the temple with the sheep and the oxen, and he scattered the coins of the money changers and overturned their tables. Then to those who sold the doves, he said, 'Take these things away. Stop making my Father's house a place of commerce.'" Okay, so let me kind of unpack a little bit of why Jesus was so upset over this, okay? A lot of people like to assume that it's just because they were doing stuff with money in the temple. No, it's because they were doing some manipulative stuff, and they were actually stealing from people, and they were just doing horrific stuff. Let me explain it to you guys a little bit more, okay? So basically, back in the day, the law of Moses required that any animal offered in sacrifice should be unblemished, and that every Jewish male over 19 years of age was required to pay something called a temple tax, okay? So this is what was going on. Think back to like Old Testament where they offered animals for sacrifice, all of that. So these people were abiding by the law of Moses, kind of Old Testament principles, right? And what they were required to do was to bring an animal that was unblemished into the temple for sacrifice, right? And there was also something that they were required to pay called a temple tax. Okay, this is very important, in the context of us looking at what was getting Jesus all riled up, right? And so as a result, the tax collectors and inspectors of these sacrificial animals that people would bring were present at the temple, okay? And so they were set up to receive these things from the people, okay? So the tax and the sacrificial animals, all right? So here's the deal. I want to explain a little bit about what they were doing, though, with that stuff. So them being present was not as much the problem, but the way that they were doing stuff was really wrong, okay? So listen to this part. So here's the problem. These officials would not accept secular coins because they had an image of the Roman emperor on them. To put these coins into the temple treasury was thought to be an offense. So a made-up rule. We're getting into Pharisaical stuff, right? Accordingly, the merchants and the money changers set up shop, and what they did was they charged exorbitantly high prices in order to change the currency and for sacrificial animals. And so basically, let me give you kind of some current day context, okay? So this is kind of the equivalent of, let's say you were going to go and put $20 in the offering bucket, right? Well, what they would say is, well, your dollar bill or whatever the current currency is in your country is not good enough. And so we want to convert it into this other form of currency. And we want you to pay us $50, but we'll only put $20 in the offering bucket. That is what was going on in this passage of scripture that had Jesus fuming. And what was happening is these officials were keeping the profit, the gain that they got from all of this for themselves. And so not only was it robbing from God, but it was making it much harder on the people. And so they were giving sacrifices and basically temple tax and offerings, right? And so the other thing that is crazy not cool about this situation is they were making it extremely hard on people to give, right? Like, that would be the equivalent, well, it's not an exact equivalent because we don't have an exact equivalent to what was going on back in the day, right? But that would be kind of like us standing in the churches and going, if you want to give to Jesus, you've got to go this roundabout, really hard way to do it. And we're going to charge you a lot more to be able to have the privilege to do that, right? And so this is why Jesus was all worked up in this particular passage of scripture, is because they had set up these tables and they were basically telling people, they created an extra rule, right? That's what Pharisees love to do, is to argue and create extra rules, right? And so they created an extra rule for these people that they were going to set up camp in this particular area, and that they were going to require something extra, and they were going to put all this hardship on the people, and that they were going to unfairly gain the profit for themselves from this particular activity. And so I just, it's not really a profound kind of a thing today, but I just wanted you guys to understand the backstory behind why Jesus was all worked up. It wasn't just about money being present. A lot of people don't understand kind of the why behind this. It was having to do with the fact that these money changers, literally, I told you guys to remember that word when we first read through this passage of scripture. These money changers, they literally were trying to change the money, change the currency, so that they could get a profit from this stuff, and so that they could build themselves up, and they were robbing people while they were going through this process. And I want you guys to listen to this one passage at the very end here that I read to you guys from the book of Matthew. So this is Matthew 21:13. Jesus said to them, "It is written in scripture, my house shall be called a house of prayer, but you are making it a robber's den." That word robber's den is really important because that's exactly what they were doing. They were robbing from people. Okay, so this is why Jesus was all fired up, right? It wasn't the fact that money was present and that they were doing stuff. It was the fact that they were manipulating people and robbing people and doing all of this just with no remorse in a place that was supposed to be God's place. And they were making it harder for people to get to Jesus, right? And to be able to give and to do what they needed to be able to do, right? So all of that to say, I'm just going to leave that there. There's no profound thing with this today. I just wanted you guys to kind of know the backstory and to learn a little bit about that particular passage of scripture. Hope you guys have a great day. I'll chat with you again soon.